So each attending should have gotten an email link to their individual spreadsheet. This one's just called demo blank as an example, but yours will have your last name as the file name. To access it, just hit open. And then just so you don't have to hold on to that email, I'll show you how to add this document to your favorites bar. So in Microsoft Edge, if your favorites bar is invisible, click on the star, then the triple dots, then go down to Show Favorites Bar Always. And then you're going to want to drag this lock icon up here over the favorites bar, and you can rename it. And this way you can easily access it to fill it out for things as a record also for academic promotion too in the future, as well as the ACGME tracking. The other thing to do is, once you're in email, again, so you don't have to always know where the email is, the other way to access it is through OneDrive. So if you open up the apps, click on OneDrive, and if you go to Shared, there should be a Shared with You, and then the file will be here with your name on it, Shared by Me. And you can also add this to your favorites so that it'll show up here. So the first tab has a place for your name, as well as links to the various tabs here for easier navigation. You can also get to those via the hamburger menu in the bottom left. You can see here, if you navigate to point values near the end, this has a list of all of the different categories of activities and how many points they are going to the overall academic score. And then there's some help text as well if some of the areas need explanations. So navigating back to the contents page, you can again sort of click on any of these, and then those also have return to contents page links. The next thing you want to do is make sure that the way we're tracking authorship is with a whole department search, and this is generated from a different spreadsheet. So if you click the link here, this will take you to the Pubmed Search Generator. If you go to the second tab, you can see the search that we're generating. But for individual attendings, all you have to really do is make sure that your name is listed correctly. So if you want, you can even filter. Let's say for Dr. Bernard, search for your name, click Apply. And for example, if he also published under Steve Bernard, you could add that as well, so that publications with either Stephen or Steve would work. And so you can see a few of the variations here for people who may have published under different names. You can also add your ORCID ID if you'd like. And so this search is then used to just pull our publications for the whole department each year, and it's uploaded to Zotero, and Trinity will kind of keep track of the number of publications for each staff member. And going back to the tracker, so where Trinity will be entering the data is in the department data. So these areas are password protected, just to avoid any of the formulas getting messed up. So she'll be tracking, again, the peer-reviewed manuscripts that are PubMed indexed, and she will also track the residency lectures. So for any lectures where the staff is either assigned to give the lecture, such as for the case discussions, or where they're assigned to supervise, as long as they're on the schedule, we'll use that to count the number of resident lectures given. So for example, if you go to the schedule on the OneDrive and we want to search for how many lectures Dr. Bernard did, you can search for it and hit apply. And you can see here there are 3 lectures for the upcoming year, so he would get credit for each of those. So again, going back to the demo of the academic scorecard, the tabs in green are the ones that the attendings and their individual administrative assistants are going to be filling out. So each table is designed to make it easy to select the right category and add any other information as needed. So if you pick weekly conference attendance, for example, it's the total for the year. So if you went to 20 of the Wednesday lectures, you can just put 20. I would just put January 1st for the year. It can be any date within that year. And then for that one, just put CCF. For the others, it's a bit more self-explanatory. Again, if it was conference or meeting attendance, you just put the first day you went, say ASPS, and the number of days you were there, let's say it was 3, because this is one of those things where Trinity also tracks the travel, and the faculty usually submit these to her. Either the attending, their administrative assistant, or Trinity can add these in. Oftentimes people are traveling the day before, sometimes the day after. So you can see if you don't enter a correct date, it'll give you an error message, and then whether or not it counts as an attendance-only event. And Trinity can also fill out these registration fees and reimbursements, which will be summarized here once the financial data is included. For situations where you're not getting academic credit, like let's say it's a board meeting or something, or a startup that you work for, here you can still put the date, but you're not going to get points for it anyways. And the other thing is you'll notice there are no points even filled in here until the information's entered in all 3 columns. But you can see here that there's no points awarded for that. It's really just so there's a row for travel documentation. And then for pretty much all the others, you have to fill out all 3 columns. And this one's usually a drop-down, so let's say there was a med school lecture. So you'll notice here you don't have to fill out the number of days attended. That's really just for how many conferences did you attend for the year, as for the weekly education, and how many days were you participating in a national meeting. The other ones are just sort of one-off, so for each lecture you give, you would put that here with its category. The grants, research, committees, volunteering, and mentorship are a lot simpler compared to the education and travel ones. Sorry, back up. One other one to point out here is this residency lectures. So this is different from credit for attending the lecture. This category is specifically for when you are either the assigned staff supervising the resident giving the lecture, or the one actually giving the lecture, such as for case discussions or if it's an afternoon lecture, because those are counted in the residency lectures tab, which again Trinity will be tracking. And so for the subsequent sheets, they're a lot simpler, fewer columns, you just have to add the year, and there are also fewer categories. It's fairly self-explanatory. The one I will just cover briefly is the research tab. So just remember, as it says here, the PubMed indexed publications are automatically downloaded to Zotero. We're going to do this every year around June, just to capture publications that may have been electronically published in December, published in print the following year. So we're just going to use the year in Zotero as the way to track this, but you can see kind of all 500 some publications from our department. So there is one category where it'll say do not use and highlights in red, and so even if you did try and enter this in, you wouldn't get any points for it. Whereas for non-PubMed indexed ones, there are points allotted, as well as book chapters and other editorial roles. And then committees, volunteers, and mentorship are all there in the other green tabs, with the point values right there at the end. And so now I'll show you an example of one that's been filled out. And this will give you an idea of how the summary pages work. Okay, so I'm going to go to View, New Window, just so you can see both of them. The date, importantly, is also used to filter the summary tab. So in this one, the example, a lot of the events are in 2022. And so you can see I've filled out a whole bunch of examples here. So if we go back to the academic summary, again, most of the events were in 2022, so 2021 doesn't have very much. But if you put in for 2022, it pulls in all of the items where the date was in that given year, so 2022, and we'll tally up the points, including the ones that are input here for the residency lectures and the peer-reviewed manuscripts. And then kind of on the administrative and finance side, you can also track the number of days of attendance only for conferences, as well as the year-to-date reimbursement. Again, the year on the contents page is what dictates what year is being considered. So again, they didn't go anywhere for 2021 nor 2023, but for 2022, you can see the examples there. If I change it to 2023 and then go to their education travel and change one of these dates, for example, that'll now show up under their travel summaries. It also has all the calculations baked in. So you can see it does all your year-to-date calculations for you automatically, including the attendance only days. When weekdays are calculated, attendance only is factored in, and that goes towards the year-to-date total. The total reimbursed will also show up here for the year, and so again, if I change this to 2022, you can see that the total is reflective of only values that are for a given year.